Praise Yahweh. This is Pastor Phil, the Kingdom Priest, with yet another podcast. This one entitled The Sermon on the Mount and the Abomination of Desolation. How am I going to combine the two? Bear with me. Matthew 24, 1 through 3. And Yahshua went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to shew him the things of the buildings of the temple. And Yeshua said unto them, See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another, that shall not be thrown down. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, Tell us when these things shall be. Tell us when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world. Now the disciples listened to Yahshua as he sat about on the Mount of Olives and began to question him about the end of times. It's here he delivers one of his greatest and most powerful sermons, in the beginning of which is the warning of false prophets. So, from Matthew 24, 4 through 5, Yahshua answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. We know that has and is still being fulfilled. The Catholic Church somehow wrestled the pure worship of Yahweh away and twisted and corrupted it until it is almost unrecognizable today. With the advent of Judeo-Christianity, which are actually the two polar ends of each other, it's an oxymoron. There's no Judaism in Christianity, and there's certainly no Christianity in Judaism. And the Pharisees and the Sadducees were the Jews in Yahshua's lifetime. It has continued to this day with the likes of the C.I. Scofield and his demonic Scofield Reference Bible, which is actually a reference commentary, not merely a Bible. With it, dispensationalism took root until early all of today's churches and seminaries teach it. This is the real promoter and driving force behind Scofield's rapture theory. The rapture had its beginnings in a counter-Reformation commentary on the book of Revelations, written by a crypto-Jew, Francisco Ribeiro. He wrote, In order to remove the papacy of the Catholic Church from consideration as the Antichrist, as an act of countering the Protestant Reformation, Ribeiro began writing a lengthy commentary in 1585 on the book of Revelations. I'm not going to even attempt to translate its Latin title. During this time of the real Antichrist, Martin Luther, this is a quote of Martin Luther's, not Ribeiro's. Martin Luther, then he proposed the Antichrist, a single individual, would persecute and blaspheme the saints of God, rebuild the temple in Jerusalem, abolish the Christian religion, deny Jesus Christ, destroy Rome, pretend to be God, kill the two witnesses of God, and conquer the world. To accomplish this, Ribeiro proposed that the 1260 days and 42 months and 3.5 times of prophecy were not 1260 years as based on the year-day principle of Numbers 14:34. but are a literal 3.5 years, hence preventing the arrival of the deduction of the 1260 years. You can go to Wikipedia, look up Francisco Rivera, and you'll find this. Now, the spurious doctrine of the rapture was established modernly by John Nelson Darby and the Plymouth Brethren. And this is a quote from Wikipedia on John Nelson Darby. John Nelson Darby, 18 November, 18 through 29 April 1982, was an Anglo-Irish Bible researcher, one of the influential figures among the original Plymouth Brethren and the founder of the exclusive Brethren, Plymouth Brethren. He is considered to be the father of modern dispensationalism and futurism, pre-tribulation rapture theory, and all those that were popularized in the 1930s. Now, this theory actually had its birth with a so-called vision of Margaret MacDonald, a 15-year-old lass living in Scotland who had visions, supposedly. In her visions, the chosen few are saved by the purifying fire. Derby took her vision literally, and voila. The one verse that this entire concept is built upon can be found in 1 Thessalonians 4:15. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. And thusly, basically, Yeshua would carry them off to heaven. The only problem with this is, John 3:13 says, and no man hath ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man, which art in heaven. Now back to our original story. Matthew 24:5-8. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. And these are the beginnings of sorrows. Now, in 150 years, America has not been at peace. Since the 1917 Canaanite Jewish overthrow of the Christian nation of Russia, when they assassinated the Christian Emperor Tsar Nicholas and his family, and financed the Bolsheviks in financing the First World War. Now, a quote from the days of Noah, WordPress on World War I. 1313, on March 4th, Woodrow Wilson is elected the 28th President of the United States. Shortly after he is inaugurated, he is visited in the White House by Ashkenazi Jew Samuel Untermeyer of law firm Guggenheim, Untermeyer, and Marshall, who tries to blackmail him for the sum of $40,000 in relation to an affair Wilson had whilst he was a professor at Princeton University with a fellow professor's wife. President Wilson did not have the money, so Untermeyer volunteers to pay the $40,000 out of his own pocket to the woman. Wilson had the affair with the woman on the condition that Wilson promised to appoint the first vacancy to the Supreme Court, a nominee to be recommended to President Wilson by Uttenmeyer. Wilson agrees to this. Jacob Schiff sets up the Anti-Defamation League in the United States. The organization is formed to slander anyone who questions or challenges the Rothschilds' global conspiracy as anti-Semitism. Strange enough, the same year that they do this, they also set up their last and current central bank in America, the Federal Reserve. Congressman Charles Lindbergh stated following the Federal Reserve Act on December 23rd, the act establishes the most gigantic trust on earth. When the president signs the bill, the invisible government of the monetary power shall be legislated. The greatest crime of the ages is perpetuated by this banking and currency bill. It is important to note that the Federal Reserve is a private company. It is neither federal nor does it have any reserve. It is a conservatory estimated with profits that exceed $150 billion per year. And the Federal Reserve has never once in its histories published accounts. Now, in 1917, as a result of Germany's offer of peace, the Rothschilds' war machine goes into overdrive in America, spreading propaganda which leads to President Wilson, under the instructions of the American Zionist leader and Supreme Court Justice Louis Dembus Brandeis, reneging on his promise to the electorate and taking America into the First War on April 6th, as per the Rothschilds' promise to the British to take America into the war. They dictate they want something in writing from the British to prove that they will uphold their side of the bargain. The British Foreign Secretary Arthur James Balfour therefore drafts a letter which is commonly known as the Balfour Declaration, which is reprinted below at www.thedaysofnoah.wordpress.com. Excuse me while I get a drink. Now, back to Scripture. Matthew 24:9-14. They shall deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and betray one another, and they shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall arise, and deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that endureth unto the end, the same shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in the world for a witness unto all nations. Then shall the end come. And the greatest and the most argued about abomination since its creation. Matthew 24:15. Wherefore shall ye see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whoever readeth, let him understand. Much has been written and researched about this abomination. Many say it was the day that Jerusalem was conquered in 70 AD, and the hoisting of the Roman standard upon the dismantled temple. And others claim it was the slaughtering of a pig upon the altar. Excuse me again. From Maccabees, 1 Maccabees 1:20 through 49. After subduing Egypt, Antiochus returned to the 143rd year. He went up against Israel and came to Jerusalem with a strong force. He arrogantly entered the sanctuary and took down the golden altar, the lampstand for the light, and all its utensils. He took also the table of the bread of the presence, the cups for drink offerings, the bowls, the golden censers, the curtain, the crowns, and the gold decoration on the front of the temple. He stripped it all off. He took the silver and gold and the costly vessels. He took also the hidden treasures which he found. Taking them all, he deported to his own land. He committed deeds of murder and spoke with great arrogance. Israel mourned deeply in every community. Rulers and elders groaned. Maidens and young men became faint. The beauty of women faded. Every bridegroom took up the lament. She who sat in the bridal chamber was mourning. Even the land shook for its inhabitants, and all the house of Jacob was clothed with shame. 2 years later, the king sent to the cities of Judah a chief collector of tribute, and he came to Judah with a large force. Deceitfully he spoke peaceable words to them, and they believed him. But he suddenly fell upon the city and dealt it a severe blow, and destroyed many people of Israel. He plundered the city, burned it with fire, and tore down its houses and surrounding walls. And they took captive the women and children and seized the cattle. Then they fortified the city of David with a strong force and strong towers, and it became their citadel. And they stationed there a sinful people, lawless men. These strengthened their position, for they stored up arms and food, and collecting the spoils of Jerusalem, they stored them and became a great snare. They became a great snare. It became an ambush against the sanctuary, an evil adversary of Israel continually. On every side of the sanctuary they shed innocent blood. They even defied the sanctuary. Because of them, the residents of Jerusalem fled. She was a dwelling of strangers. She became strange to her offerings, and her children forsook her. Her sanctuary became desolate as a forest. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into a reproach, her honor into contempt. Her dishonor now grew as great as her glory. Her exaltation was turned into mourning. Then the king wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and that each should give up his customs. All the Gentiles accepted the custom of the king. Many, even from Israel, gladly adopted his religion, and they sacrificed to idols and profaned the Sabbath. And the king sent letters by message to Jerusalem and the cities of Judah. He directed them to follow customs strange to the land. to forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the sanctuary, to profane Sabbaths and feasts, to defile the sanctuary with the priest, help me, to build altars and sacred precincts and shrines for idols, to sacrifice swine and unclean animals, and to leave their sons uncircumcised. They were to make themselves abominable by every unclean and profane, so that they would forget the law and change all the ordinances. Did you catch that? It stated this very abomination in clear words. Verses 1 Maccabees 1 through 49 again. Then the king wrote to his whole kingdom that all shall be one people, and that each should give up his customs. All the Gentiles accepted the commands of the king, even from Israel gladly adopted his religion. They sacrificed to idols, profaned the Sabbath, and the king sent letters to Jerusalem and to the cities of Judah. He directed them to follow customs strange to the land, to forbid burnt offerings and sacrificing drink offerings in the sanctuary, to profane and the Sabbaths and feasts, to defile the sanctuary and the priests, to build altars and sacred precincts and shrines for idols, and to sacrifice swine and unclean animals, and to leave their sons uncircumcised. They were to make themselves abominable by everything unclean and profane, so they should forget the law and change the ordinances. They forgot the law established by Yahweh when it came to profaning the Sabbath. Exodus 31:13. Speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, Verily, my Sabbaths ye shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am the Lord that doth sanctify you. They no longer worshipped on the Sabbath. Genesis 2 through 3. And on the seventh day, Yahweh embedded his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all which he had made. And Yahweh blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because he had rested from all his work which Yahweh had created and made. Israel had taken to Sunday worship, the worship of the sun. Most, if not all, pagans is based upon this one solitary event, sun worship. Now, from Matthew 12:8, for the Son of Man is the Lord, even of the Sabbath day. Yahweh's Sabbath is one clear mark that identifies us as his. Exodus 31:13. Speak thou unto the children of Israel, verify my Sabbaths ye shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you shall know that I am Yahweh, that doth sanctify you. But we have clearly lost this knowledge to ourselves. Our people deny their birthright and scream, give it to the Jews. They are God's chosen people, and we are just Gentiles saved by grace, because we align ourselves with the enemies of Yahweh. John Hagee, Pastor Billy Graham, Joyce Myers, and every other heathen worshiping church leader who teaches this in Genesis 12:3. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that blesseth thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. Believing that the Edomite, Canaanite, Jews are the Israel of the Bible, Hagee made the statement that between the USA and Israel, I stand with Israel. We should buy him a one-way ticket. But that is just symptomatic of most of our people who live in blindness. From Hosea 4:3, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because they hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee. That thee shall be no priest to me, seeing that thou hast forgotten the law of the Lord. I will also forget thy children. Now, back to Hosea 2:6. Therefore, behold, I will hedge up thy way with thorns, and make a wall, that she shall not find her path. And from Micah 7:4, the best of them is as a briar. The most upright is sharper than a horn hedge. The day of thy watchman and thy visitation come. Now shall their perplexity, however, as the time inches closer and closer, that knowledge be restored. In denying his identifying mark placed upon us, the real Israel, the Anglo-Saxon, Celtic, Germanic, Nordic, and related kindred, we're giving away our birthright. But this is the identifying mark he placed upon us. DESCI is alive. No other belief system shares our doctrines. It is unique to us and us alone. Go in peace and go with Yahweh. God bless.